Ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Today, I interviewed two Hare Krishnas, Saumya and Radhika. It was awesome. It was so good. I've always been really fascinated with the Hare Krishna group. I always thought it was kind of culty, but I always thought it was kind of culty, if I'm honest with you, and I kind of wanted to get a bit more of a perspective on it. And so I invited these two on to the podcast to kind of give me a rundown of what being a Hare Krishna involves, the beliefs that they have, the practices that they engage in. And it was awesome. They were so sweet, so kind. They got me some food. And they taught me a lot about what it means to be a Hare Krishna. Me personally, not really involved in any way, really just a observer and curious individual. So I don't think there's any conflict of interest here in my speaking about the Hare Krishna group. These two belong to the Bhakti Lounge, which is located in Wellington Central. You can find them by just looking up Bhakti Lounge on the internet, and it should come up there. They do yoga practices, meals, a bit of chanting, and I learned the significance of the chanting as well. And they even brought me some books. Usually they're trying to sell me those books on the street, but this was a nice change. This was cool. I really enjoyed this podcast. It was definitely very insightful. Guys, let me know what you think. Upcoming shows. You know what? I'm not going to plug any of my upcoming shows for this episode. I'm just going to let you enjoy the episode and let me know what you think. Like and subscribe on the video. Yes, I know every single YouTuber ever says that, but whatever. Smash that like button. Follow me on Instagram. I'm desperate for your attention at gavin.hughes. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you're interested in any other types of episodes as well, who you'd be curious to hear from. That's just me being lazy in terms of coming up with my own ideas. Nonetheless, still curious as to what you guys would like to learn about. Guys, thank you very much. Enjoy the episode. Thank you. Bye. We're live. There we go. How are we, guys?
We're good.
Fantastic.
Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having us, Gavin.
It's always kind of weird when you go from like a regular conversation. It's like, hi. Okay, it's started.
Totally
And
weird.
you're right in my ear. So I can hear you with these.
Can you actually?
Really clear. Nice.
That's great.
So, who are you two? Give us a breakdown.
Give us a breakdown, Radhika.
Oh my gosh. Well, we are Saumya and Radhika.
Okay.
I'm Radhika.
I'm Saumya.
Nice.
So yeah, we practice bhakti yoga, which is commonly known as Hare Krishna.
Cool.
And
And
that's
how long
why
have you guys been doing that for?
Me, it's been coming up 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah, and probably like 5 years for me. Around
5
about
years.
5.
Yeah.
Just a bit over.
Wild. So I've been to the Bhakti Lounge once for yoga because I'm a big fan of like hot yoga, and the chanting as well was pretty insane. But it's like an hour. Do you guys do? Is it 2 hours of chanting? Do you guys do that?
Like the personal meditation or
yeah.
the singing?
You sing. Is it singing or chanting? Like I'm very uneducated when it comes to this stuff.
Oh,
So
great. We're here
yeah,
to educate you.
you guys
then.
can just educate. Gavin Learns. Let me learn.
Yeah. There's 2 different styles actually of chanting. So there's one that you can do as like a personal practice. Or
Okay.
individual spiritual development, and then there's one that you can do as a group, which is probably what you've experienced with the music and
Yes.
dancing,
Dancing,
different
lots of fun.
instruments. Yeah.
Right. That's exactly what I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Hare Krishna. It's just Hare Krishna, right? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Hare.
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare.
Krishna,
Krishna.
Hare
Yeah.
Rama, Hare Rama.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So what is Rama Rama?
You got it.
Can you? What does it actually translate to?
So Hare is the energy, the
Okay.
energetic source. Krishna means the all attractive. And Rama is the reservoir of all pleasure. So when you're chanting this mantra, you're basically calling out to the source of everything beautiful, everything pleasing, attractive.
Right. And do you do it for the sake of? So I've done like a tiny bit of reading on this. I know the Hare Krishnas occasionally will walk through town, right, and do the singing.
Yeah.
From what I understand, the purpose of the singing is for other people around them to. Is that right? I mean, I think any singing is kind of like that, but like. am I on some kind of trail here?
You're on a good trail.
Yeah. Please, help me out
We'll
here,
keep
buddy.
walking this trail.
I got your lemonade.
I'll walk the trail with you.
Please, thank
We
you.
can walk and dance on the trail together. The purpose of the public chanting, it's for both. It's for the person who is chanting and for the public's benefit.
Okay.
So, like, the purpose of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra is to develop or reconnect with our spiritual source, with Krishna.
Okay.
And so that's good for the person individually who's singing, and it's also good for others to hear. It's like a reminder. Like, in the busy cities, we can get so caught up in our day-to-day life that we sometimes lose touch with ourselves.
Sure.
And so, if you hear a siren, for example, you're reminded that, like, oh, there's an emergency, there's something happening.
Mm-hmm.
And in the same way, when we hear Hare Krishna, it's like an alarm or a reminder of our spiritual identity.
Right.
So then that's like, and also it's spreading happiness,
it's so
genuine
fun.
happiness.
Yeah.
Like we're happy chanting Hare Krishna, and then other people are like, hey, the Hare Krishnas.
Here we go.
It's like a spiritual
what are
sound
they
vibration,
on?
something
Do you ever
different.
get people joining in?
Yeah,
Like just out of
totally.
nowhere? Like,
It's
yeah,
so
we're following
great.
along. Let's do this.
Absolutely.
It's the best part.
Yeah.
We got one.
It's actually so enlivening to see others as well just kind of take up something and just join in, because there's so much happening out there that's so distressing. But why not just come together with a bunch of people and just chant and dance and have some fun? Actually, it's really light. It's
fun.
It's really fun. I never would have ever thought I'd ever be doing anything like that, but you just get swept away. It's so contagious.
Well, that brings me into so how did you guys get involved with would you say it's a movement, or is it a religion? Hare Krishna religion, or is it a
More of a lifestyle.
Yeah,
A
definitely.
lifestyle.
I'd definitely call it a lifestyle more so. Yeah.
It's not just like one belief or one dogma or anything. It's like you base your life on wisdom
okay.
from yoga and meditation texts, and then it's all encompassing.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the different areas of your mentality and your outlook on life as well.
Yeah.
So you got into it 4 years ago.
So I did my degree and I was doing my postgraduate study going into mental health and addiction. So I was working in that area. And I've just always had an interest in health and well-being, and was interested in sort of understanding the difference between Eastern and Western outlooks on health. So 4 years ago, I was obviously working in the area of acute mental health and was seeing kind of like that end of the spectrum of health. And I was thinking, wow, like actually Western medicine is quite reactive rather than proactive. And so I sort of wanted to kind of explore a little bit more into kind of more proactive ways of looking after the whole self. So, not just the body and the mind, but also what is it, what is actually that's core in all of us? What's the spiritual well-being as well? And that kind of led me to, hanging out with like-minded people that also were wondering the same things. Like, actually, why is it that, like, I'm the therapist and they're the client? Or why is it that they're locked in the hospital and I'm not? So I wanted to understand a bit about kind of the bigger picture.
Right.
And then I started to explore, and my flatmate was also, he was looking into a whole bunch of different kind of, what do you call them, like, just different religions, spiritual paths, lifestyles and everything like that. And he actually introduced me to bhakti yoga, which is Hare Krishna. And I just tried it out, and it all just kind of made sense, and it's really wholesome, and
And then here we are.
And we became friends.
And then we became friends. Yeah, Saumya was one of the first persons I met, actually.
Really?
And I was like, wow, this is
sad.
great. Like, because, you do have these funny conceptions about what it is. Or, I mean, actually, I didn't know anything about it. Just that I was studying in Dunedin, and they were dancing down the street, and I was like, these guys are real weird. I just would mock them. And
That's true. Yeah, it's like not the first thing.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird though? Where it's like anything like that's outwardly celebratory, kind of like looks.
Or
It's
like,
kind of
what are they
cringe.
doing?
I think that's what it is. Cringe and kind of awkward.
exactly. And it's
Yeah.
all because I just had no idea what they were doing or what they were about. And then
Yeah, it
so
comes from a lack of
suddenly,
understanding for the most part.
Yeah,
with
so then-
anything.
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just sort of like, you then lump, you're like, oh, okay, all Hare Krishnas are like this.
Keep talking. I'm just gonna turn this fridge off.
Okay,
Keep
that's
going.
great.
Yeah,
He had to have the fridge on because of our juice, so
Yeah.
we're really grateful.
It's nice and cool.
I can't remember. So yeah, so then you just lump all these people into this kind of like collective group. So then, and I think that that's one of the things that happens with any kind of group, is that suddenly it's like all of you are the same, or oh, that's just the, you know, you get swept like that. That's just the Hare Krishnas or something like that. But actually, we were even discussing before we came on, actually, practicing bhakti yoga, it's so different for each individual, because it's not, you don't just put a stamp on the label on someone and then that's that. Everyone's so unique, so different, has so many different conditionings, like, you know, how they were raised and everything like that, or things that they want to contribute to the world. So it's actually, it's open for everyone. It's not like a sectarian thing. But yeah, you're right, it just comes from not knowing that.
So it sounds like with the Hare Krishna movement, it's more of a it doesn't sound like with most religions, right? There's like a very strict set of guidelines. There's XYZ that you can do. Do you guys feel like it's more of just a mentality that it encompasses, and then you just kind of live with that mindset of, you were saying like knowledge, pursuing knowledge? Is that kind of how it is most easily wrapped up?
Well, yeah, it's actually like kind of like someone was touching on, you want to elevate your consciousness to something higher. So it's, you know, going beyond just the day-to-day and looking, okay, well, what's a core part of you? And yeah, and it's true. Like, I mean, with anything that you want to do, there's always going to be guidelines you have to follow. Like, you can even think, if you want to be a successful athlete, you have to train for, you know, if you want to be successful, you have to do this, this, and this. And you can choose to do that and you'll do great. And if you don't want to do it, that's fine. You don't have to do it, but you might not expect the same results.
Right.
So that's the same with this lifestyles too. It's like there's certain things that are going to really help you to advance on your path, and there's going to be things that are not going to help so much. So they're kind of guideline suggestions that teachers have passed down to
and what
make
are
it
those?
easier.
If I'm sure there's plenty.
If I could just add something on that, just because you mentioned mentality, and I was thinking how...
Sorry, I might just get this a tiny bit closer, if that's all good.
Am I not loud enough? I usually don't have
surprising.
I usually don't have that problem.
I know. I can imagine. This must be normal weird for you, right?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I've been reflecting recently, like there's a saying that I was reading, that our mentality creates our reality. So in a lot of sense, there's so many things in society and in our world today that are distracting our mind and are kind of overstimulating our mind and pulling our mind to all sorts of places. So I think like what Radhika was mentioning about the guidelines to being successful, it's like, what can I do, or how can I sculpt my life, style my life, engineer my life, so that I can be the most peaceful in mind, and not have any distractions that are getting in the way of my inner focus. Because I think we're so much used to having external focus, like how are others perceiving me, have I got enough of this, do I look a certain way, have I achieved enough externally? But so many people have external success, but they're not internally peaceful. So that's what we're trying to focus on, like how can we, and to give that to others, an opportunity to develop more inner focus and self-development. So it's a mentality, but the lifestyle helps the mentality be,
I see what you mean.
like peaceful.
It's very interesting that you say that, because I think now more than ever as well, people are kind of focused on curating an image. And so I had a psychologist on a while back, and we were talking about just the idea of like feeling awkward, you know. And we've had like, with technology, we've had like this huge ability just to kind of curate and create a picture of who we want people to see us as. But then we come into like the real world, you know, where we have like actual interactions and talking. There's like lulls in conversation, and it's total normal human interaction, right? But people just aren't equipped for that, and they just don't know what that feels like, and they just feel uncertain, and that contributes like this feeling of anxiety.
Because there's a lot of stimulus now.
Too
it's
much
like
stimulus.
Even like you're waiting for a friend, you can whip out your phone.
It's crazy, right? Like you can just distract yourself. There's something to be, and as well, I think there's like a perception of like, I used to when I was younger, like, you know, you see somebody who's just standing around doing nothing, you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, like, what, don't you have anything to do in your life?
You don't have no friends. So
Like,
I
think as well, especially recently, just like in terms of global relevance, that there's so much of this was shown during lockdown. Like so many people, and even around the whole world, were struggling internally because of lockdown, because we're not used to not doing anything. Like you're forced to stay in your home, you're not able to go out and distract yourself this way, that way. So it was very like confronting. I know that a lot of people who we spoke to coming through our yoga studio after lockdown were saying that, wow, it's very like, you know, some people loved it and they thrived, but other people were really battling with the mind, because we're in such a culture that doesn't encourage us to be sit with ourselves, to face ourselves and understand who we are. So
how did you guys find lockdown? Did you enjoy it?
I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it.
So
good.
good.
To say that.
And I realized the privileged position I am.
It's bad.
That was so good.
It's very nourishing. Like, it
it's
depends.
nice.
Yeah.
But it was still busy. Like, I actually felt like nothing in my life changed, you know, because there's always something to do. I think this is a funny misconception about Hare Krishnas, is that they don't do anything. They just sit and chant.
Yeah, we were really busy.
Yeah.
We're doing a lot of we were doing like a lot of online sessions and offering free yoga, meditation, workshops, music, cooking, everything.
Cooking. We upskilled that.
So do you guys have like jobs on this as well, or are you fully
full time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that basically running the Bhakti Lounge?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
is it the two of you who run it, or how many people run that?
There's a few of us.
Yeah, it's like a whole group of people contribute their time and energy to
volunteer
kind of
which makes it everyone wants to be there, which is really nice.
But not everyone who's like Hare Krishna or associated with Bhakti Lounge is doing full-time service there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, it's only just like a few, because most people are working or studying, or like we have in our flat, there's like a girl studying PhD music composition, another girl's like PhD in psychology, she's working, but at the same time they're practicing Bhakti yoga.
Right.
And when they have time off work, they'll come and contribut to help cook or to help do music, teach yoga. So it's just in our situation at the moment, because we're young and we have a desire to put in full energy to helping uplift consciousness. We're able to do that, but not everyone. It's quite rare.
I totally call this my gap year. From, you know, I went straight from high school to uni, then to working, and I was like, actually, I want to take a little bit of time for myself. Most people, they travel, they do 1 year, so now this is like my gap. 3 years.
It just keeps getting better.
And I was like, oh wow, I suppose, you know, some people do that too. They go traveling and they love it and they stay out there.
Sure.
So it's the same. I just didn't have to travel far, and it doesn't cost me a lot of money.
The journey of
So
self-discovery.
yeah, it's a very beautiful one. But yeah, so that's the thing. It's like, it's not like I don't have you know, I know I'll go back into my job and working, but if I gave 21 years to one kind of education, I want to now give at least a few years to a different kind of education to see what else I can get from it. And that's kind of like the mindset. So yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So how did it start here in Wellington? The Bhakti, because the movement started was 1966.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah.
Okay, and that was in the States from
New York.
a gentleman from India. What was his name?
Prabhupada.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada.
So he came from India to the States, and then 1980s he passed away. 1982.
1977 was it?
Oh gosh, I'm so bad with dates.
Yeah,
I think it was
fine.
77.
Yeah.
But he spent maybe 12 years traveling the world continuously, between 65 and 77. And I think he circled the globe like 14 times, and established like 108 spiritual centers, wrote heaps of books, translated a lot of ancient literature from Sanskrit to English. So one of the, there's so many places, but you might know like of George Harrison from the Beatles.
Yes. Yeah, right.
He was he got to know Srila Prabhupada as well, and then they kind of helped in the UK establish centers over there, and like all around the world. And then in Wellington or in New Zealand in the early 90s is when the Hare Krishna movement kind of more established.
Came here.
In New Zealand, there were some visiting monks who were students of Srila Prabhupada.
Cool. And is Wellington the only place? Where is it? It's up in Auckland as well, right?
Yeah, we'll got the same kind of like Bhakti Lounge style, but there is also other places, other people practice Bhakti yoga in different parts of New Zealand too. But
and is it like, do you see it as like a are you guys all in unison with one another, or is it kind of like it's a separate group, they do their thing, we do our thing over here, or is it all like a collective kind of, we're all close contact, we all meet, so and so? Is it like? Do
you mean like in Wellington or
in
New
like
Zealand or
the
world?
Or in the world, you know?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah, it's quite collaborative, but it's also very like individual. Like it depends on how much people want to interact. So, like we have really nice festivals at the end of every year. In Otaki, and we get together for like a week, and all the different bhakti yogis from around New Zealand come and get together and dance and share wisdom. It's like
so
a Hare
fun.
Krishna festival. It's
Hare
just
Krishna
it's just
festival.
full out like kirtan, dancing, chanting,
Kirtan's the music.
hearing talks, and being inspired and eating nice food.
How many people? 1,000 people?
Like
Oh.
100 and something.
So taking.
Yeah, it's quite a small group.
This is so great.
It's fine.
Not quite like rhythm and vines.
But yeah, the community is really nice. Like around the country, it's a very nice, like there's different groups of people in different areas, and some people live in like a temple in Auckland, and then some people live in their own homes around the country, Hamilton, Christchurch, Dunedin,
Right.
Invercargill. And then yeah, everyone of course wants to get together with like-minded people, so we have really nice
Nice.
relationships, yeah. And we visit there often, hey, like
Yeah.
we go to Auckland every year and
Yeah.
hang out with other young people and the
Nice.
older people there as well.
Yeah, and it is like it's all we've all got one thing in common. Obviously, we like to chant Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
We like to study the books. We like to actually, it's amazing being around so many persons who are actually looking at how they can internally develop rather than kind of blaming externals. They look at themselves and are like, oh, how can I be better to help this person? So it's like a mood of like, how can I change to serve others more?
Right.
It's kind of the basis of.
It reminds me actually, like just talking about collaboration and inspiration, because the first, like maybe after 3 months of coming along to Bhakti Lounge, there was a big festival at Bhakti Lounge, and there was a travelling monk coming, and then heaps of Hare Krishnas came down from Auckland, and they did a massive street, like it's called Hari Nam, when you see the Hare Krishnas dancing on the street.
Yeah.
They did a massive Hari Nam through the city, and the people at Bhakti Lounge were like, you guys should come. Like me and my friend, we were just kind of new. They're like, you guys should join. And I was like, okay. I just tried it out. And I felt so inspired. I was like, I didn't even know that there was more people who were chanting Hare Krishna than in Bhakti Lounge.
Yeah.
And then I saw all these people from Auckland and all these monks and all these other people, like families, and they were all chanting and dancing. There was like hundreds of us. 100 maybe. It's New Zealand.
Right,
Millions.
There was thousands of us.
We're bigger than you think.
But I just remember like,
Huge deal.
yeah. We're really something. But yeah, I just remember that I felt, wow, it's not just us in our little lounge here. This is like a global spiritual movement, and everyone can participate. Like there was people from all different backgrounds, different religions, different countries, and they were all having this common platform of trying to uplift consciousness.
Yeah, that's a cool thing, eh?
Yeah, does the Hare Krishna movement, do you have someone, let's say, who's like, Catholic? Can they also be Hare Krishna?
Totally. One of my best friends, she's going to like kill me if she watches this, but she has like a sister, like, let's say her name.
You don't have to say her name, you can just say
But anyway, so
Jane
Jane Doe.
Jane Doe. I don't know, I think it's like if you're an anonymous person, you can say Jane Doe.
Yes, Jane.
Maybe not John
Yeah.
Smith.
Is
the
it-
girl.
That's actually your name, though.
That is her name.
Oh, God.
How did you know?
How do you know her?
No, but yeah, so she was Catholic, and we actually so many persons like Christian backgrounds, Muslim because it's the same. It's like it's not like the Hare Krishna movement is not like you can use the word sectarian. It's not just for one type of person. Actually, it's for everyone because
It's dealing with the soul, right? Like
exactly.
the soul doesn't
And
have
we've
a
all got
label.
one source.
Right.
The soul is not Christian, Hindu, Muslim,
Exactly.
or black or white,
It's
or
just got this
female.
body, like this costume on.
Yeah, like how we're raised, like we might be raised in a certain religion, but our religion can change, like our faith can change. One day we're Hindu, next day we're Christian. But it's kind of focusing in Krishna consciousness, what is the original nature of the soul, beyond all the labels, because we already have so many labels, right?
Yeah.
And there's becoming more and more labels put on top of us, like a
Sure.
product these days. So yeah, it's focusing like what is the essence of the self beyond all those labels, and that can cut through all the different designations.
Because it is like we are in the world of like labels. That's why it's like, the Hare Krishnas came and they got given the Hare Krishna label because they chanted Hare Krishna. So it's like
Yep, they never
very
called
original.
themselves that.
It's like, it never came across like that's not what it came for. It was actually it is giving a lifestyle with unity amongst so-called diversity, but actually it's not like that. Like you were saying, it's taking it down to the core level that it's like we all are a spirit soul and we've got the same source.
Right. So the focus mainly comes on like self-awareness. Is that kind of what the core thing is? Just becoming more self-aware.
Yeah, you could say.
Maybe.
I think that, like what Radhika was saying, it's like not about the externals at all, because actually that's such a prevalent thing these days that we're all based on what we look like and what we have, but it's more about who are we. And I think that you're asking about, can you be Catholic or this religion, that religion, and still chant Hare Krishna? And I think if we have like a broader understanding of identity or self-development, it's like there's a path and everyone's on this path of evolution of consciousness. And so from wherever you're at, you can kind of, the point is to try and develop your consciousness to its natural state. Which is what Krishna consciousness is meaning, like our original state of consciousness, which is pure and free from labels of this external designation or this external identity. Just like this lemonade here.
Right, so
for example, for example,
yes, please.
you know, like it's coloured yellow, right? Because it's had lemon put into it. But like before the lemon was put in, it was just pure water. And so in the same way, like our consciousness is pure, just like water before it hits the earth. And then when the water hits the earth, it becomes a little muddy. And so the process of Krishna consciousness, it's like a natural process to like clear off the dust from our consciousness, because we have so many things in our mind and heart that kind of distract us. And
does an interest, like does someone's like passion kind of come into that as well though? Like let's say I'm super passionate about tennis.
You could totally play tennis.
No, not exactly.
You're allowed to.
I'm really good.
We can have a game.
Play tennis?
Wait, you hate tennis?
I love tennis.
I was just never good at it. So.
Really? I used to play so much when I was in primary school.
Oh my God.
Loved it. And then I was sometimes the angry kid though who'd smash his racket.
Oh yeah, there's always one.
There's always
it was
one.
me. Yeah.
You'd hit it against the net, right?
I go ground.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, my parents hated me.
Oh.
Yeah. I can't buy a new one. You know, I'm like 17.
Yeah. You have no money.
It was so bad.
Anyway, sorry. What was your
thing to do?
What was your tennis example?
What was my tennis?
Yeah, where did?
So I was like, okay.
Just play tennis, Gavin.
It's okay,
That's
Gavin.
what you really wanted from us. You wanted some advice.
Yeah. You just got to vent out the anger from the tennis game. Let it all out, Gavin. Yeah.
I have no idea.
Just looking for some mates. Oh, we're on camera. Okay.
There's one here or something. No, but okay. So like you were talking about like identity, right? And so you're trying to strip away labels, right? But you can create an identity around a label, right? And you can create like a sense of self around the narrative that you kind of build. And so I like to define myself by the things that I'm interested in, my morals, and you know, my friends and my family and stuff like that, right? Is the purpose of Hare Krishna is to kind of remove this pure state. Is it removing identity? Is that what it's kind of doing?
No.
Or no, okay.
Do you want to speak more on that, or I can? No.
Yeah, I mean, no, it doesn't. Like, it's like you're still your own person. So it's like I can say before practicing bhakti yoga, I still hold true a lot of the things I used to be like beforehand. Like, it's like you don't strip away who you are as a person, but it's understanding that it's like you've got a body and a mind that's of a temporary nature, you know, because, you know, your friends have probably changed since primary school, and your interests and the way the mind works. I'm sure your body's definitely changed since you were 5 years old. So
hopefully.
It's like everything.
You've got a beard now.
So we can see everything. It's changing. Whereas actually in Krishna consciousness, it's actually helping you to understand the identity, which is eternal and it doesn't change.
Right.
So it's like you can still appreciate that. Yeah, I've got this interest. Like, for example, I like reading. Go figure. It's a great place to be if you like reading. But I've always liked reading as a child. I was always angry because my dad would pay my brother $5 for every book he read. And I was like, I'd be a millionaire if you just paid me. But he never did that. Anyway, so I'm not a millionaire.
Just going through the Where's Wally.
Yeah, that's what my brother did. So yeah, I've always liked reading. So it's like that's something that I can also carry and still do within bhakti yoga. That doesn't have to be something I don't do just because.
Yeah, I think that's a key point as well. Like, it's like definitely not to dissolve identity, because that can't happen.
Can't
like
do that.
we're
not
our
rocks.
personal existence. Yeah, like there's a difference between me and the
rock.
microphone. One is material, one is spiritual. But I think that actually the essence that you pointed out, that's the key of Krishna consciousness, is to reestablish our original identity. Like, understand who am I, like Radhika was saying, who am I beyond the temporary, and that's that relationship or that identity can be understood in relationship with our source. So the point is that we have an eternal identity, which is part of Krishna. We're little, like there's a whole, that means there must be parts within that whole. So we're parts of Krishna, our spiritual identity. Cool. And so Krishna consciousness is like the linking process between us and Krishna, us as a soul and Krishna. But we're also recognizing we don't just have our heads in the clouds, but we have our feet on the ground as well. Sure. Like we have to deal with the practical body and mind and the material world. Totally. And we have to interact with others and work jobs and do practical things. But at the same time, we're thinking about what is the consciousness behind what I'm doing and what is the purpose of this body and mind in the first place.
So that kind of segues into two things I want to talk about. And one, I guess, what's the Hare Krishna's relationship with death?
Oh, we talk about it a lot.
Good question.
Yeah. And is there...
Not morbidly.
No, but like because it sounds together. Like you guys talk about like the physical
Thank God
body,
we're talking about death now. It's our favourite.
I love talking
about real.
Straight to the real stuff.
Straight to the grave.
Fluff.
Dead serious.
We are dead serious.
We are dead serious.
Serious. Okay.
We're we
going down this rabbit hole, but
it's a good question.
Because it sounds like you guys talk about the body almost like it's just a physical form of something else.
Yeah, like a vehicle.
It's like a vessel. Vehicle.
Yeah.
Do you guys believe in reincarnation? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's like, so just like I was giving the example before, like when you're 5 years old, your body looked a certain way. Mm-hmm. And then actually scientists have said every 7 years, every cell in the body.
Change, right?
Every single cell.
What is the human body at that point?
Yeah.
Well, actually, you're reincarnating in this lifetime because there's something about you that's saying the same, even though your whole physical body has just changed. So then it just makes sense that energy transfers on. So it's like there's something that keeps the body alive. So, when we do see a dead body, we're like, oh my God, they're gone. But a body is right there. The person that you see, it's the same body. It's there. But that thing that's attractive about them, which is their life force has just passed on. So it's like just like that's going through this temporary body, it will just enter into another body. So it's
another human body.
That depends on how you live your life. That's it's what you can learn more about in the books. But it's like that's why taking your lifestyle can really engineer and design where that transition kind of goes.
Sure.
So you do have say in that.
That's where our free will comes into play, I guess. And even in the terms, like Radhika was mentioning, that we're already reincarnating. So and just like if your clothes become old, like you naturally just take off and put on a layer to replace that. So just like the body becomes old, so the soul is like a body. The soul is like a body. No, the soul is
wrong.
The soul is in a certain body for leave the podcast. I've failed.
You failed.
I'm sorry. I'll take my lemonade with me. So the soul is in the body.
The soul is in the body.
For a certain amount of time, just like we have clothes for a certain amount of time and then they get old and we change clothes. It's a natural process. So in the same way, when the body is has reached a certain kind of expiry date, then the soul moves on to another body, and that's dependent on our activities.
How you act.
Like that's kind of how karma ties into reincarnation.
Sure. What's the next step beyond a human being?
The idea beyond, because human beings quite a good body to have.
Yeah.
Like in terms of
dogs don't have this
who
discussion.
are not happy in their bodies.
Well, it's true because humans are kind of acting below their potential these days. Like when the purpose of the human form of life is for self-realization, so we can have conversations about enlightenment and how to elevate ourselves. But if we're not utilizing that opportunity properly, or if we're not directing our energies towards self-realization, then actually we will experience a lot of anxiety and distress in the mind while in this body. It's kind of like a sign from nature telling us that we're driving up the wrong ramp on the highway, barking up the wrong tree. Because if we're not using something for its purpose, then naturally we're going to feel discomfort. So the body and mind for the human is actually a loophole to get out of material existence, like the situation of taking birth again and again like that.
So it's a lot of the stuff that we talk about. This sounds like almost like a conversation that I'd have with somebody who's just taken LSD.
Yeah,
like
true. We have.
Yeah, me too. It's awesome.
Sweet.
It's so good. Yeah. I think some of the biggest realizations that I have, not necessarily like, I learned X, Y,
She was
Z.
joking, by the way.
You have to take this. Don't take this out of context.
Yeah,
We haven't taken LSD.
You haven't? No. Oh, you monsters! You lied to me.
No, this is the interesting thing, because you raise a good point, is that people do take intoxicants to have these kind of experiences where they can go a bit more.
Realizations.
Whereas actually, you can have kind of those realizations and understandings without having to pay the money or have the down that follows the high. That's what, Srila Prabhupada, who brought Krishna consciousness to the West, he said, he had a slogan, it was like, stay high forever.
Right.
And it's true, because because when you do have that like kind of enlightened information, or you said that you had some kind of like, your biggest realizations came from when you were taking LSD. It's like you can have those kind of constantly, because Saumya was giving the example of like the water in its pure state, it's clear, but when it's got something in it, it's a different color, so you're trying to clear that away. So when you are clearing that away, actually your pure state is full of bliss. Knowledge. It's full of full of
bliss.
Eternity, knowledge, and bliss. So that is actually our state. We're just being covered. We've got different colors mixed in there, and we're just trying to clear that out. So the realizations that you can have through intoxication, actually, that potential is there within us, and we're trying to work to uncover that. And like I think you were saying at the beginning, Saumya, like not having any like distractions or veer away. Like you might take an LSD hit, and that 10 minutes, or I don't know.
12 hours.
12 hours. That 12 hours. Okay, even. It's a long time. So that 12 hours, then you're like in this place. But then what happens after the 12 hours, and then what goes on from then in the days to follow, whereas it's like having something a little bit more steady and consistent.
So
helps with it more.
Have you guys have never taken like feel free to not answer that if you don't want to, because it'd be very interesting to get your perspective on that, as well as having
like on
I guess taking like an LSD or some hallucinogenic substance, where it's like you can kind of compare the state that you guys currently have within.
Right. I'd say like I personally, I didn't get big into drinking when I was younger, but I started drinking in like, I'd smoke marijuana occasionally, mushrooms, things like that when I was quite young. And then that was maybe like 14, 15. And then I kind of got a bit over it.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, these days, by the time we're 16, we've tried everything there is,
Sure.
So then I was like, what else is there? So I guess that's when I started to actually look for some genuine kind of spiritual experience that wasn't dependent on material substance.
Right.
So that kind of, I heard one of my friends was explaining to me when I was first coming to Bhakti Lounge, why if we're purely spiritual, why should we have to depend on something material to awaken that? So I would say that, like, obviously when there's an up, there's a down with those kind of things. And I would say, like, in no way what I experience in Krishna consciousness, what I experience through intoxicants in no way can measure up to like what I experience in Krishna consciousness, because it's something that's natural to the soul is Krishna consciousness, but like so many other things are just kind of distracting us or giving us a little glimpse, but it's not a spiritual experience in itself.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think in a lot of times with like drinking and party drugs and stuff like that, the purpose is I guess recreation, rather than, I think you can kind of take into a hallucinogenic experience with more like a deliberate intention of somewhat enlightenment. And I think I also like, I think I can appreciate the accessibility of those. There's cons and pros and cons to that.
It's kind of the nature of the world that we live in, is we want things to happen fast and overnight. So it's like it is actually seems great that there is something you can pop in your mouth and then have a great experience. Whereas like when you do want something to be lasting, or you want to have it for a longer term, you do have to work for it, which isn't always that attractive.
I think that goes with life in general, right?
Yeah,
that's true. So there's like these. It's amazing you had such an experience where you got to see things as they are, but it's kind of like, well, what will you do with that now? So you've had that, so it's like now seek that there is something more than just the day.
It's really interesting though, because actually like the whole Hare Krishna movement, it was like Srila Prabhupada, the Indian gentleman, he came to the West in the 60s. And like, what was the biggest drug in America in the 60s, right? It was LSD. Everyone was popping tabs. And so many of the people who were first coming across Srila Prabhupada were taking acid like every day. And you might have seen some footage of when they came over and Srila Prabhupada sat in a park in New York City, and he was chanting Hare Krishna under a tree. There's a famous park there where he would just sit there. Park, Tompkins Square Park. It was a slightly different one, but he would just chant Hare Krishna, and then all these young Americans came there, and many of them were on LSD. And then they just started to chant and dance, and the footage is hilarious. Like everyone is just like massive smiles and arms up, jumping up and down. And so many of the early students of Srila Prabhupada like were on LSD, and they were coming to his evening discussions and hearing from him high and dancing and get on high. But then they kind of came off that because they got a higher experience or a higher taste in spiritual life.
Isn't that wild how there's
it's
like
interesting.
uniformity amongst that, where it's like people who take LSD as well as kind of getting into like a meditative state. There's like a real sense of just within the human condition, this uniform sense of, and well, I guess enlightenment.
Yeah, I guess like that the point was like in the 60s in America, the whole kind of revolution of young people called hippies, so to speak. They were like not just being hippies for the sake of it. They were expressing a deeper need. They were like, we're frustrated. We don't want to just live the 9 to 5 grind like our parents and then work hard just to die. They were like, there must be something else. So they were pushing, right?
So
like
we've got that loving propensity. We need to know where can we put.
How can I love in a deep way?
Yeah, that's a huge
so
thing.
that's kind of like why it really was quite amazing. The timing that Srila Prabhupada came was that people were really searching for something deeper, and then so they were like, you know, we're taking drugs, we're trying this, we're trying that to get an experience outside of this like day-to-day temporary buzz kind of world. And then Srila Prabhupada came and gave knowledge. He said, like, you're looking for this because you are eternally happy. Like, that's your nature. So why don't you try and access that inner nature, that spiritual nature, which is full of happiness? Don't go just chasing this buzz and that buzz and just taking this drug and that drug and this girl and that guy. Or he's like, there's something deeper. Like, I can see you're looking for it. So here is the real thing. So it was really quite amazing. Like they went from hippies to happies. You know?
And you were also like, because you're asking about sort of if we have had an experience with kind of taking LSD to compare it. And I mean, like I was saying sort of at the beginning, it's sort of not a, you know, Hare Krishna isn't just that cookie cutter person's come to it. So I've got one of our flatmates, she was hardcore into like the hardcore drugs and stuff. But yeah, she couldn't find satisfaction there or anything lasting, and then so she's been practicing bhakti, maybe 6 years. I don't know if you know who I'm talking about. No, it's 5, I think, same time as you. Yeah. You know who I'm talking about, eh?
Do I? Actually, no, it's not. It's not everyone. Like,
it's like one of those bleepers.
Yeah. This one was the druggie.
No, that's all good.
But it's not every Hare Krishna
that
was on drugs and then came to.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's not the.
So like it's like everyone has like a different way of coming into it, and I personally, just wasn't my.
Fair enough.
You never experimented. But it's true that as well, because I think like there's so many things that can be catalysts for helping us to look for something deeper.
Definitely.
Like I'd say drugs, like hallucinogenics, like you're mentioning, just because I had this conversation recently with 2 guys from America, and they were saying like similar things. Like, yeah, but it just really, you know, it awakens something. And I'd say like it's true that this can be a catalyst for encouraging us that there might be something deeper. It's not like spiritual in itself because it's coming from something material, but the point is you can kind of, a lot of people are taking drugs and things just to try and snap out of the day-to-day and consider what else there is or have a different experience. So that catalyst can be also in the form of like death, and you know, like that was my case.
Seeing
like
someone else.
It's like, you know, like you have a friend die and then it makes you think like, what else is there in life, or what am I working hard for, or what is the purpose? In the same way that some people have a hallucinogenic experience and they're like, whoa, I'm just working hard and maybe there's something else, and you know, like it can be a catalyst, but it's not the substance, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, it's not spiritual in itself.
Yeah. I
guess.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. But I kind of disagree in that I think you can have like I think you can have realizations. I think for some people, I think first thing is time, and I understand that it's probably like, because it's very much a lifestyle. That sounds like what you guys are involved in. I think for a lot of people, it's just so much more accessible to have that, and quicker, easier. It's not exactly ideal, but for a lot of people, I think it is just. It's it's less of a leap, strangely enough. I think to try and take something. I don't know. I don't really know where I'm going with that.
I mean, I see I can kind of gauge at what you're getting at. It's like we want something that's like now instant, gonna kind of give us a higher experience, right?
I think so.
And it's kind of like, it seems like a big thing to be like, okay, here I am in this situation in my life, and then to leap over and just join some spiritual movement or meditate every day. It's like, it's a big leap of faith, so to speak, but actually it's a very gradual and natural process. Like, just like when you don't question so much about taking drugs, right? Like, I remember the first time I drunk or took drugs or went to parties, and I didn't have any doubts or questions. I was like, yeah, everyone's doing it, let's just give it a crack. So in the same way, like, we put our faith into it immediately, but with like spiritual life, for some reason we have so many doubts and I'm not sure, and so many holdbacks. But it's like, you can just dip your toes in and just try what you like come for some yoga, do a little meditation 10 minutes a day, and then you just naturally get more of an experience, and you're like, oh, this is nice, what else is there more to it?
What do you reckon the biggest misconceptions about the Hare Krishna movement are?
That's a good question.
The
biggest. I think, cause from when I talk to people, I think there's like this real idea of like it being almost cult-like.
Yeah.
Like a cult.
I mean, cult means culture. Like, so then when you put it like that, any kind of label or group is a cult. Like, even you could say society's a cult because it's a culture, people are following that culture. It's just, I guess, of course, Hare Krishna would be seen as a cult because it's a smaller group of persons doing something that's quite radical to the norm.
Quite intense, very different.
So again, like, my parents, well, my mum had like problems with that, thinking like, what are you joining? Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? So that is a but I mean, what would you say, like, the misconception? I was trying to think about the cult thing. It's
misconceptions, definitely the cult is there. Like, when I first started chanting Hare Krishna.
Did you have that as well? Skepticism yourselves?
There was one time where I was like, oh, what is this?
Right, and what was that?
That was just when I was like, oh man, what am I doing? Like, suddenly I was like getting into like, this is awesome, this makes me feel really good and stuff like that. I'm like, this is amazing. And then so suddenly I'm like, it's too good to be true.
I remember when I first came along and my mum emailed me. She's like, she emailed me a document, and it was like 10 reasons why Hare Krishna is a cult. She's like, read this. And I read it, and everything was spelt wrong, and it was someone it was very inaccurate. But I was looking at each of the points, and I was thinking that this could be applied to any group in society. Like, as they chant the same mantra, but in the same way. Before, when I was at university, we chanted the same songs every night at the clubs, like the same kind of vibe. But this misconception is there of cult, and also I think that we are all the same and we do the same thing. But I think that was the biggest thing, because we actually, there's like, even within the group of girls that I live with, we're so individual, like very different, and even the way we structure our days and what we do.
Do you guys live
different
within the Bhakti Lounge?
No, not at Bhakti Lounge.
No. Do people live there?
No.
No. Okay.
We just have like a flat up the road.
It's close to it.
Right.
It's nice to work. I mean, live close to work.
Yeah.
But
that's probably a main misconception, that we all do the same thing. We have the same, we're just thinking exactly the same. But it's a very individualistic experience of spiritual consciousness that each individual has to experience for themselves, kind of. It's not like you become a Hare Krishna and then you're signed up and you have to do whatever you're told and you have to dress the same. I think I had those thoughts. I was like, oh, at what point? Because everyone was so nice when I was first coming, and then I was always very joking and loud, and I was like, maybe at some point they're going to ask for my credit card and tell me to just get serious and stop laughing and like become like a spiritual person, whatever that means. And then that point never came, and it was like so much encouragement. Just be yourself, do your own thing, and contribute to this culture of spiritual upliftment. And I thought that was really cool, because it wasn't like, I didn't know too much about Hare Krishna. I actually had never heard of it.
And so what is contributing? What does that look like? Does that just mean helping out around?
Whatever you have, you can
I like to organize things, so I manage
And I like to sing and talk, so I go on the streets and share the knowledge, and I sing in the kirtan, and some people like cooking. Actually, whatever skill you have, you can engage it in Krishna consciousness. You can engage it in helping. When I say Krishna consciousness, it's like whatever you have, you can use it to help bring others to a higher level of consciousness, like to help develop their spiritual understanding. Yeah.
And do you think the only way to develop that spiritual understanding is through Hare Krishna? Through the movement itself?
So no, I mean, people follow so many different religions and do their own practices, which is actually it's great.
Yeah.
So actually, we're like, this is maybe another misconception, is like sometimes people have this idea about a religious group saying this is the only way and everything else is a waste of time. So I think people might think, they could think that about Hare Krishnas, or
you have to believe.
Yeah, you have
sure,
to.
well, it's probably one of the few, I guess, religions that doesn't, if we call it a religion, that doesn't really disparage others.
No way. This is actually, that was one of the huge things that attracted me to it, actually.
Yeah, me too.
As it's like, actually what you're doing, just do it properly, like do it well. So yeah, if you're a Christian, then read the Bible and follow what Jesus is saying, and go with that.
Sure.
So of course it's like I mean, I think you touched on it earlier, everyone's at different places in their sort of cosmic journey of self-realization. So, we're saying that the soul is going into different vessels and it's making its way back somewhere. It's on a journey.
I think that's as well, like I was always looking for like something deeper, and when I think about other religions, like you were saying, I always had this like question, like why are other religions criticizing, like if you don't believe you'll go to hell, or if you don't join us then this will happen. And I was like, at the same time they're saying God is all merciful and all loving. So I was like I was trying to understand. So I was traveling a lot when I was like 19, 20 years old, and I would also visit all these different temples and mosques and churches, and that was like my quest. I was like, what is it that's uniting all this, like what's the essence of religion and spirituality, rather than what's pushing us and dividing us apart and disparaging one another. And
is there much, because it sounds to me like and tell me if you guys are done, because we've hit our time, but we can keep going.
I'm cool.
I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, sweet, we're cool. I haven't even got halfway through my lemonade yet.
I'm really enjoying my juice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is it good?
It's great. Yeah.
Charlie's is so good.
Yeah.
Did they sponsor you? We can show
should.
the camera.
I'm sending him an invite.
Yeah. Charlie's is great.
26 subscribers.
You gotta start somewhere.
That's awesome. What were you gonna ask?
But it sounds like there's really an absence of like a power dynamic. Is it quite structured within Hare Krishna? Is there like a
like hierarchy or something?
Yeah, like a tiered system, a head, temple or something like that.
There's not one particular place where everyone is like going back to, but there is the understanding that like it's a very like important thing to have a spiritual teacher to guide you on your journey, just like
you have a teacher. You don't just pick up a textbook and then just look in the microscope and you know what you're looking at. You have you learn through hearing. So we do that. Yeah,
like the purpose of, just rooting back to the last question, like of any religion, the purpose is kind of how to know God and love God, and the teacher.
I think a lot of religions' core purposes are that, right? But I think they get misconstrued by people who get within the system itself.
Yeah, so you have to look at the essence rather than just the external form of the religion. And the teachers on the path of Krishna consciousness are like there to guide us in that direction, how to awaken that natural state of love for the Supreme. And so that's, I guess, like the hierarchy is not so much of like a power hierarchy, it's more of like an exchange of love, of the teacher is giving knowledge and kindness and direction, and then the student is naturally wanting to reciprocate by like giving service and assisting the teacher and sharing that spiritual knowledge that he's given. Just like now, like everything, what I'm saying is what I've learnt from my teachers and from reading books, and before I came across that, I wouldn't know this. So it's just naturally out of gratitude. You're like, I've been enlightened, I've been given knowledge to help me see clearer, so I want to share with others, because that knowledge makes us happy, If you can see clearly, you're happy. But if you're in a dark room, it's kind of hard to be.
Yeah, it's like, much harder to find that. I get that.
Yeah. So that's the quote unquote hierarchy, but there's a line of teachers in Krishna consciousness. So It's not that.
Who's the head teacher?
Well, like Srila Prabhupada, who came to the West, he founded the Krishna consciousness in the Western world. But before that, he had a guru, and his guru had a guru, and his guru had a guru, and it goes all the way back to Krishna, who's the original spiritual teacher,
right?
Or the supreme being, supreme person.
Because Hare Krishna is a branch of Hinduism. Yes.
It depends. How would you define Hinduism?
That's a very good question. I guess Hinduism is the book. I can't rattle off its exact beliefs, but there's plenty. There's Krishna, the Almighty, right? And then there's demigods underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
But from what I understand about Hare Krishna is there's the belief there's only one, which is Krishna, right?
Yeah.
And the demigods are, I don't know. Can you
It's a funny one actually, because no. Well, that kind of proves the point that like Hinduism isn't really it's nothing. It's kind of a term that is loosely used to define anything coming out of India.
Mm-hmm.
But Hinduism in itself, like historically, if you're interested, just because I was also wondering about it.
I'm very interested.
Yeah. Is that like when the Muslims were coming down from the north towards India, they got to a certain river, like they were coming into India, and they got to a certain river called the Sindhu River, and they couldn't quite pronounce the Sindhu part, so they said Hindu. It was the river Hindu, and then they were at this river for quite a few years, and before they crossed it, and anyone on the other side of the river they called the Hindus.
Right.
So that was kind of where that term loosely came from, just the Indians, and we're the Muslims, so there's Hindus and the Muslims. But actually Hinduism is not really like an established religion, so to speak. It's just referring to anything from India. So yeah, Krishna spoke his teachings on Indian soil, but it wasn't just for Indian people, and it wasn't like meant to be an Indian kind of cult, like just like the sun, like I think literally the sun rises in the east, right? Like in Wellington here, it rises over Oriental Bay in the east, but it shines for the whole city. So in the same way, like Krishna spoke on Indian soil, but his purpose was this knowledge should be for everyone, and this lifestyle should be for everyone, because everyone wants happiness. Wants to share that.
And you're asking like the demigods, you've got, so it's just kind of like any kind of government, they've got the president, and then they've got all their ministers. They've got I'm really not political. I hope I'm saying this right. But you've got the prime minister, and you've got your different ministers of different departments. So then that same, so Krishna's the president, the top dog.
The top dog.
And then you've got all the ministers of state, which are the demigods, which are helping to run things.
Right. Okay.
I guess that's what Hinduism kind of gets, because often, like if I ask people what is Hinduism, like no one can define it, because it's not actually like an established thing. It's just a label that was thrown on a group of people. But who
practice a type of spirituality.
But what you pointed out correctly, like there's Krishna is the supreme, and then the other demigods are there. But where basically Hinduism gets confused with, I think, is that people worship all these different demigods without recognizing Krishna as the supreme. So Hinduism is kind of a merge of like worshipping different people on your altar who are elevated, but kind of ignoring Krishna, or maybe thinking Krishna is one of the demigods.
It's like
but your understanding is
Presbyterianism.
But your understanding is correct. Like Krishna is the supreme, and then the other demigods are like administrators for his material affairs. It's really interesting. It's so interesting. So Krishna consciousness is separate from that, separate from kind of hodgepodge Hinduism ideas. It's just a very clear path of like there's one supreme being, that's Krishna, and we're meant to try and serve him and love him and recognize that we all have our spiritual aspects. So how can we nourish that in each other?
Right.
Yeah.
Do when you guys meditate, bit of a segue here, but when you guys are meditating, do you guys like practice on breath work as well? Like, is it quite like a bit of a focus? I got into this guy Wim Hof. Have you guys heard of that?
Oh, the ISO?
Or do you mean literally breath work?
Like actual breath work.
Yeah.
Inhale for 6, let out for 6.
And sits in ice tanks and fire.
Amazing what he did. Yeah, amazing what you can do. These bodies are quite amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, people can do that. Pranayama as a yoga practice. I personally, I don't practice so much pranayama, but if I'm feeling stressed, I'll take a deep breath. There's so much there. Or I teach yoga, so I do breath
you teach
work
it over at the
there.
Bhakti Lounge? Or?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
So, I focus on our breath work there, because we do forget to breathe during the day, but
we do. Yeah, it's crazy, right? We breathe so so shallowly.
Yeah, so shallowy.
Yeah,
and our
yeah.
breath is linked with our emotions as well. So you've noticed when you're stressed that your breath becomes very short.
Yeah.
But like naturally in the yoga practice, like it is a rung on the yoga ladder called pranayama, which is like alternative nostril breathing, all these different kind of things to just help the ears of the body flow better. But the purpose of meditation, like, I mean, I do pranayama like for my health because it's very beneficial, but it's not just the ends. It's not like I just do pranayama to feel peaceful. As I do that so I can be healthy in body and mind, so I can focus on my mantra meditation, which is our primary meditation, like chanting Hare Krishna on beads.
Right.
Like at the start what you were talking about, the individual and then the
full
group.
circle.
Yeah. We'll do a full circle of chanting on our beads as well. Yeah. Yeah. So it's, I mean, it's, yoga's for the body, mind and soul. It's not just for the body, which is kind of has become a little like in the West.
Right.
Like,
that's a
it's
very
meant
good
to be
point.
for
I heard
every
someone talking about
aspect.
that recently.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of a loss of focus on the breath work that yoga entails.
I mean, there's a lot of focus on the purpose of yoga. It's all become about the poses and the outfits and the bodies, which is not the point of yoga at all. The purpose of yoga is like for the ultimate spiritual connection.
Sure.
Yeah.
But it is like they work together. Like the purpose of the physical poses or the asanas is so you can have a strong body and healthy body, and then the purpose of so you can focus on your breath and calm your mind through the breath. And then ultimately, so you can not have any distractions, so you can focus on spiritual realization or connection. Or making money.
Maybe.
Well, that's what it's become like these days, right?
Yeah.
I'll get strong and healthy so I can make money.
Exactly.
But yeah, bhakti focuses on like inner wealth, you know?
Right, okay.
You can have so much money but not be happy or peaceful. So what's the point?
Yeah, it's a very good point.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people have it experience.
Yeah. So, hey guys, where can people find you? Over at the Bhakti Lounge?
Where can you find us?
Bhakti Lounge, 175 Vivian Street.
Here in Wellington,
In
for all
Wellington.
my international listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
You might get famous. You will get famous one day.
I hope so.
You can bring a lot of
we
people to
believe in
Bhakti
you.
Lounge. Yeah.
We believe
You've
in
got a
you.
lot of fashion. It's so nice. We're also on the streets a lot. Like you probably like don't be shy
I
to
see
come
you
up.
guys doing the books.
Yeah, don't be shy to come and have a
It's
chat.
never free. The books are never free.
We ask for donations for the printing of the books.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, if I was adamant about not donating, would you give me a book?
You can come to Bhakti Lounge.
Yeah?
Yeah.
But if I couldn't donate...
It completely depends on the individual. Like, because we just volunteer to do that.
Okay.
To do this service of just trying to, like, we're just trying to humbly share knowledge because it's benefited us. So we don't get paid to do it. We don't get forced to do it. It's just, like, out of gratitude for what we've been given, we want to share it.
Right.
So it depends. Like, sometimes I look at the situation, and then if the person's really wanting to know more, then hey, why don't we can meet up and we can read together.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're really sincere about wanting to know something deeper, there's always a means of doing that.
Mm-hmm.
The money is the purpose of giving is so we can have people contribute to help printing more spiritual knowledge, and that's all. And also by giving
that's
you
why it's not in
actually
the bookshops. Like if one of our books in the bookshop, you'd be paying like $40, but here we're just covering the printing cost. So
Right.
it's
like the
cheaper
bare
that way,
minimum.
actually.
Yeah, and they're spiritual books, so you don't just want to, like, they have so much value. Like they're not just only worth $5, $10. They're worth like so much more because they're awakening such a deep happiness. But the purpose.
That's a hell of a sell. Wow.
I mean,
she goes on the street.
I mean, but also the point, like, it's
We're
really.
also making 2 for 1 right
It's
now.
really, I've got some here. But anyway, like the purpose of giving also is like by giving to a spiritual cause, then you're actually able to enter the knowledge yourself more because you've contributed. So then you're giving to the people who are teachers.
You've put value on it.
So naturally, if you pay for something, you're going to want to look what you got, right? Like you're like, I've given $5 for this book. What's in there?
Yeah.
And if people are giving it out free, then you kind of take it cheaply, like, oh, it must not be, they just want to get rid of them or it's not worth much. But of course, yeah, like it depends on the individual. Like we're not just doing it robotically, like, oh, you must give $5, $10. People give different amounts, whatever they can. Whatever you can give, we'll give something as well. Like it's a reciprocation. So there's no force or no pressure.
But we bought you one as a gift today.
Oh yeah, we actually did. Yeah,
I knew
we
you were
actually
buying
did.
us juice.
Yeah, we had to
Have to give
reciprocate
back.
because you've given us so much time. So there's those kind of. You didn't record the whole thing?
No, we're back.
Oh my god.
I hit pause by accident with this thing here.
Oh my god.
We're good.
We're good.
On that note.
Yeah. So cool.
I hope you don't have to say we have to do it all over again.
No, we don't.
We don't
mind.
mind. We could.
I'd feel so bad.
We like talking.
I
about
guarantee you,
this.
one of these days, this computer's going to crash on me during a podcast.
Oh,
This is
no.
all I use it for now, is just the recording of the podcast.
Wow. That's
But
all it's got
It's
left
done
in
some
it.
good work.
I think 2012, last
Wow.
week. We're just rambling. Ladies,
Yeah. Thank you, Gavin.
thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
It's so
And we'll
nice.
catch you around.
Yeah, you're
Thank
so
you.
nice.
Bye.
Bye.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, there you go. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Tell me what you think. Like and subscribe. Give me some more ideas. Always keen to hear what you guys have to say. Yeah, really enjoyed the episode. It was good fun. Once again, check them out at the Bhakti Lounge if you live in Wellington. And if you're curious about learning more, there's so much information out there. Well, not a whole lot more information that I didn't go over in this podcast. I think I nailed it on the head, quite frankly. Share this with your friends. Guys, thank you very much. See you on the next episode.